Hey folks, Jake from Podcasty For Me here. This is a preview of a bonus episode from our Patreon feed, Paid Costly For Me. If you like this and you want to hear more, you can head on over to patreon.com/podcastyforme, where for $5 a month, you can get a new bonus episode every other week. That's patreon.com/podcastyforme. Enjoy!
The fact that it indulges in these things, it does disturb you, and then it tries to say, like, well, you really shouldn't engage in that type of thinking. And not just because it'll swallow your life up, but because, as we've discussed in brief before, but the true crime fixation, like any addiction, right, is like self-sustaining. The more you do it, the more you see it around you, the more you feel like...
a coworker who's true crime poisoned by this.
And you go around and everything you see affirms that not only like should you be doing this, but you are the amongst the chosen few for having seen this, right? It's like and conspiracy stuff.
The logical endpoint of this is like Comet Ping Pong and Sound of Freedom stuff, where you're like 400 billion children get kidnapped and murdered every year. And you're like, well, there's just no way there aren't enough kids for that to be true. And it also obviously obscure this fear of strangers is like an inherently conservative, at least small c conservative idea. And it obscures all kinds of things, but also the fact that almost everyone who is sexually abused or violently assaulted is this takes place between people who already know each other. You're so unlikely to have a stranger come and kill you that it's basically like it's like buying lightning strike insurance. Like, it's just not a real problem, but it's so scary to think about, obviously.
Right. I was wading back into the Reddits and the true crime forums and podcast fans and stuff, and it's funny you bring up Comet Ping Pong, because somebody said, like, well, it's even if I'm really interested in true crime, it's not like as bad as having a family member into QAnon or something. And someone in one of these threads said, as someone with a family member addicted to it, nah, you wouldn't want to have a family member into true crime. Mine grew paranoid to the point of calling anyone that trusts people innocent. Says she can't see the world in any shade that is not black. Stops people from living their best lives out of paranoia. Anyway, sorry for the ramble. Hope she sees the truth about this.
I mean, I went through this just recently, trying to find a home for this cat. Actually, this is the last pregnant cat that we found on the office property. But one of my coworkers was trying to find a place for her, and was like going on Nextdoor and stuff. And she said, everyone is telling me that if you say you're looking for a home for a cat on Nextdoor, they will take it and use it as snake bait.
Okay.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
We have to just trust one another.
Well, I mean, it's the interesting
reason,
right? Look, it's this type of thinking is an obstacle to community, but I also think one of the interesting things about it is that I do think there's a parasocial element where part of the attraction, like anything in this alienated third space free world that we now mostly inhabit, is there's
a third space. It's reddit.com.
That's right.
Or in my case, old.reddit.com, because I still can't figure out how the new version of it works. I don't like to look at it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's exactly what I mean. This is a social community, and it is weird because the people in it are talking about how correctly, like, we don't care about other people. We ignore the suffering of people, right? They sometimes make these, I think, correct assessments, but then it comes with this like superiority of being clear-eyed. And that's why I do want to say, look, I want to put us on blast here a little bit and say, I think this is a danger we have to be aware of when we are talking about what we see as like the real truth behind this stuff. How do people not see this? How are people not making connections to class warfare or making connections to social analysis? Look, I would like to think that we're operating on a level of a little bit more rigor and a little bit more self-awareness than the people in a true crime thread. But this is just something that I think is a danger for everybody. Feeling like you are the one who has it figured out and that everybody should listen to you. I think it's just not a productive position to operate from.
Well, I think then you have to come with the solution, the doable, non-harmful solution.
Right. Which satisfies a categorical imperative of, would it actually make the world a better place to implement your solution?
Yeah, exactly. Or, when we, for example, talk about how the police don't actually keep people safe and are just a resource drain, we'll talk about things like the solutions that abolitionists have been putting forward for decades about investing in substance abuse treatment and mental health resources, housing. People who are not desperate are less likely to act out of desperation, things like this. And also talking about, like when I go ape shit and I say, the richest people in the world at Davos telling you to take a shorter shower, need to have their heads cut off. The solution there is like demand more sustainable practices from the places where you put your money. Don't use AI. Maybe consider taking a shorter shower or like using your gray water for something.
Some of that individual action stuff does add up to something cumulative. I think.
Like, I think when you just stop at like speaking of Reddit, remember the meme format of the like college senior with the gauged earring and the dark beer who's just like above it all. Like when you just get to the point where you're like, they're both parties are owned by Halliburton or whatever. Like,
both parties are owned by Halliburton, and that's why I buy a gun and like security lights that would blind a child if they got too close.
If you think if voting did anything, they wouldn't let you do it, kind of guy. Like,
right.
Yes, and you need to, let's build community, get involved in a mutual aid organization, meet your neighbors, and find out what their favorite food is for when they get sick.
Maybe learn to let go of the individual cases. You texted me. Do you want to try to recount this werewolf story? You texted me that.
To. Yeah, I was looking up.
Tell us.
I was looking up serial killers. First, I wanted to find out who's the first serial killer who contacted the media. Yeah. Now, the term serial killer was not coined. The term serial, the use of the term serial was not actually put into practice until like 1974, actually, at some conference, and then didn't sort of enter wider usage until the 80s with a guy in Atlanta. And I'm not a true crime guy, so I'm not going to know all these guys' fucking names, and I refuse to learn them. But there was some media sensation person who killed a number of people in Atlanta. But I was looking up who's the first guy to contact the media. Apparently, it's basically the first guy you've heard of. It's Jack the Ripper, and we know that the name Jack the Ripper comes from whoever signed this disputed letter to like a London news agency by someone claiming to have, I'm the bloke what's been gutting these ladies.
Hey, and you know what else Jack the Ripper was called? Leather Apron.
Was he really? Well, interesting, very interesting James Spader movie, like young, hot, sex, lies, and videotape James Spader movie called Jack's Back, where he lives in.
We've never talked about Jack's Back before.
A beautiful, beautiful Echo Park apartment, while someone seems to be doing Jack the Ripper copycat murders. Anyway, so then I'm looking at like the Wikipedia list of serial killers or whatever, and when you get into historical serial killers, historical mass murderers, things get a little fuzzy because we get into warlord territory. We get into a time of maybe greater brutality, or at least greater brutality in the what's now the Imperial Core.
Right.
And you also get stuff like between 1564 and 1589, German farmer Peter Stump killed 14 children, including his own son. He also murdered 2 pregnant women and had an incestuous relationship with his daughter. Stump claimed to have been granted the ability to turn into a werewolf by the devil. As punishment for his crimes, Stump was put on a torture wheel and executed. His head was later severed and put on a pole next to the figure of a wolf to scare other people away from claiming themselves werewolves too. Ian and I talked about how that would not be clear to me necessarily. Oh, a guy's head next to a picture of a wolf. I guess I better not say I'm a werewolf.
Right.
But, this is...
But this is... Look, it's very difficult to diagnose somebody across eons, but this seems like a person with an aggressive mental illness of some kind.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think
neurological
definitionally, if you kill 14 children, you are mentally unwell.
I think so too. But again, like, I guess my frustration on hearing this is like, what do we learn? If that's your stance on true crime, is like, this is revealing something about humanity or about changes we have to make. Here's my stance. I will not change my behavior based on the possibility that somebody's mental illness might make them think that they're a werewolf, except to encourage a support system for people who have mental health crises, and hope that gets people educated, puts them in contact with healthcare professionals, etc.
Want to hear the rest of the episode? Go to patreon.com/podcasty for me and sign up for just $5 a month. We're sorry we do this.